Hello, I'm Ciaran Lynch and welcome to Ovicast, the Teagasc Sheep podcast. Each episode, we bring you latest insights, advice and technical updates for the sheep industry. On a blustery evening at the end of July, we catch up with County Westmeath Farmer John Bell. John's a former winner of the Sheep Farmer of the Year competition, previous host of the Irish Grassland Association Sheep event. John runs a very high output sheep system from 46 hectare grassland based farm. He's managing 500 mature ewes while ditching 130 ewe lambs lambing each year. We'll discuss some of the changes in the system over the past number of years and how John's implemented a paddock grazing system on the farm and how he uses temporary fencing to achieve this. Most importantly, we discuss the impact that's had on performance and financial return. We also discuss lamb finishing during the post-weaning period, how John now operates finishing groups of lambs where he feeds at a targeted weight range, as opposed to supplementing or blanket feeding all the sheep, something very relevant at the moment. We start off, however, with John giving us a bit of background to the flock and the system on the farm.
I'm running about 500 ewes and about 130, 140 replacement ewe lambs.
And John, it's a sizable flock. That's running on 46 hectares of it's highly productive grassland here.
It is. I suppose it's a good farm to grow grass, really. So it is, especially in springtime and summertime.
We're looking at it's in one block.
Yes.
The whole ground, and I suppose I've been around it once or twice with you. There's a bit of a difference. You have some very dry ground in it. You have some heavy or moory ground.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And I suppose that's a good thing. Even in a year like this year, that has been a good thing. We'd say in dry weather, a lot of the lower ground has shone really. So a mix, I suppose, is good to a certain extent.
It balances a wet summer or a dry summer. You kind of get you get ups and downs on both. It has advantages.
Well, this is it. Yes, this is it.
That ewe flock, John. Just to give us a quick run through it. What type of ewe are you running?
Mainly, look at the bones of the flock is Belclare, and it's Belclare cross breeding sheep that we keep. It could be Belclare cross on Texel, Belclare cross on half Charolais, but it's mostly, and they're crossed to terminal sires. I suppose 2/3 of the flock could be crossed to terminal sires, and a third of them will be crossed to Belclare. Okay. And we try to keep our own replacements. The bulk of them every year, and if we don't think we can get enough, we might buy a few extra. Okay.
I know you told me this before, but the high output you're scanning round about 2 most years, I think.
Yeah, about 2.05 or thereabouts consistently for the last 5, 6, 7 years.
So them 500 ewes, they're lambing in March. The ewe lambs, then you're mating them as well.
We mate them for the last few years. Apart from this year, we normally would start lambing them on the 1st of April, but I put the lambing back to the end of April this year, and it seemed to work very well because I could split the two flocks into two completely separate flocks, and it seemed to work well.
You give yourself a bit of a gap
and
in the lambing.
Give yourself maybe a bit of a rest, yeah, and you could house your ewe lambs maybe for lambing when everything else was gone, and it made a clean break of it.
It's slightly different, possibly maybe something to look into for some. It takes the pressure off you. Just what are you mating them ewe lambs to?
We're mating them to a Charolais.
Okay, so
Charolais ram.
And they're all going more or less for finished then.
They are. Yes, they are. Yeah, a lot of those lambs wouldn't be finished till later in the year anyway.
What suits the system?
Yeah,
John, look at your running. It's a high number. You're highly stocked. You're on 46 hectares of ground. It's all enclosed. You're finishing all. Takes a lot of management to run that, and I suppose where I'm kind of coming to this is your system has probably changed around a little bit in the last 10 years. You're fairly intensively stocked, but it's a pretty much grass-based system for a lot of the year now, but wasn't always the case maybe.
No, it wasn't. I suppose originally this farm was it would have been, we'll say, in an average of 10 acre plus blocks, and I suppose we sort of said that we're going to have to try and copy the dairyman, because he seems to be getting the results from his milk, So we said, look, at maybe subdivision is the way to go. So what we did was we subdivided the farm. We'd say on average the 10 acre blocks were maybe split in half. So that was permanently. So then we could take it from there, and gradually we just got we got into this subdivision, and it actually works very, very well, so it does.
You really took the paddock system to heart. You're a bit of an addict, I know, for temporary divisions during the year, but you're looking, I remember you telling me this before, you have kind of 78 divisions for a lot of your grazing groups now.
We would have, and I suppose it's very easy to have a fresh division for a group, even if it's only for a day and a half or 2 days. It still keeps them thriving, even say like this year when the weather was very dry there in May / early June, we didn't run out of grass, we just had enough just to get us over the line.
You were getting a bit of a rest period.
You were getting a rest period, and there was growth there, that little bit of growth there. So there was, it just makes that little bit of a difference, I think.
It's something you've seen too. I'd say over the years, your grass production increased when you started using the paddock divisions.
It just increased naturally, I think. Yeah. So it did. It's sort of it's nearly a natural thing for the grass to grow. If you eat the grass, it'll keep growing. It's as simple as that.
Your pre-weaning management now, it's a grass-based. The ewe is basically working off grass up to weaning, which is different from what you were doing 10 years ago. You're in a more creep-fed system, and that was. I remember you telling me this one before, John. It was a bit of a change around for you, coming from a more intensive system back to more reliant on let them do a bit of work themselves.
Yeah. I suppose we were inclined to be thinking that maybe if we maybe creep feed lambs, maybe from the middle of May onwards, we would try and get lambs fit before we wean them in July or whatever, and maybe we'll get more lambs fit. Yes, you might get a few more lambs fit, but it's at a very high cost. But the ewe can nearly do the same if you can try and feed the ewe and have our milk production running better.
What was the changing point for you? Didn't happen maybe overnight, but
it was. I suppose. Look at it. Mainly, it was a profit monitor that brought it to light when we saw it on written down. When I remember, I forget what year. It could have been 2012, 2013, a wet year, and along with David Webster, there we did a profit monitor, and when we looked at the profit monitor, there was thousands over that shouldn't have been spent on meal, and there was nearly zero profit. So, we were wasting our time heading down this route, and little did we know that we were wasting our time before that. We were just using too much meal. It's as simple as that, and maybe relying on it too much.
Probably something you suspected, but just to put the figures in front of you.
It brought it to light to say that maybe we were getting lazy in our way of farming or whatever, and we were saying, well, sure, everything will be all right, sure, we can feed a bit of meal anyway, But little did we know we were eating into our profit.
So,
big time.
If I look at it from another way, you're making just a bit better use out of your grazing. And the divisions, it's a simple system you use for the temporary division. It's polywire, 3 strands.
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah, it is. I suppose I'm used to it now. It took me a little while to get used to. It's a sort of a mindset, really, I suppose, But it took me a little while to get used to it. But when you get going at it, it nearly grips you, because you could see this grass growing, this young grass growing, and you can nearly see the difference in the livestock thriving. The livestock are happier. And there is a balance there to get between work and
the having to move every day versus the need to move every day.
Exactly. Well, maybe not move every day. Maybe move every few days. Still in all, you get a kick about seeing grass growing again.
And the thing performing in stock.
Well, this is it. Yeah, this is it.
You start out roughly about 3 weeks post lambing. You're kind of grouped up at that stage.
For
temporary divisions
for lambing.
After your temporary divisions, when do you start with them?
We generally would, I suppose, about 3 weeks. Yeah, about 3 weeks after lambing is say around about the 1st, 2nd week in April. Thereabouts the dividing will start. And
do you leave them up permanently, or the kind of semi-permanent? Or
in the heel of the hunt, it didn't work out that expensive to buy the fencing system.
In terms of payback for an investment,
I look at it. It's not big money. It's small money, and you're using it every day. So like, it's not big money. You know.
You can see the return. John, it's not that you're completely adverse to mealing, and it probably brings us to a point of the year we're at now. Your management of lambs post weaning. We frequently get the challenge, and you're typical. If you have a high output flock, you're highly stocked, you're grass based lamb in March. The usual thing is difficult to finish lambs. You take a different approach to that. How you're running finishing groups with lambs post weaning? Maybe you'll just talk to me for a few minutes about that.
Right. Right. We'll say come June, you might sell a certain amount of lambs off the yoke before weaning time, and then you get to weaning time. Some years you'll sell a higher percentage, and some years you'll sell a lower percentage. And then you get to, we'll just for argument's sake, the 1st of July you wean. You're going to have to, you're left with a lot of lambs on hand. Your grass growth has probably slowed up a little bit in July, so you're going to have to do something about this. You're going to have to sell lambs somewhere. So what we have done is we just introduce meal, we'll say, to the strongest of the lambs, mostly ram lambs really. Say when you get into the second week in July, and lambs, I say strongest lambs, probably lambs between 38, 39 kilos or thereabouts, you know. You
mentioned there 38, 39 kilos at that stage, to push them on.
Yes.
Why not feed them all?
Well, I've nothing against feeding them all, absolutely nothing, but not straight away. You want to pick your weights. You want to go in with the heaviest lambs, and say the lambs at 38 to 40 kilos. Go in with them and feed them, and you'll get a great response in the meal for the first 3 to 4 weeks. You will get a fabulous response, and like you can easily get 350 grams a day, no problem.
So you're feeding a lamb that's well grown, just needs that bit extra boost to finish.
That's right. It'll put a good cover on them. Like we're all trying to sell lambs, we'll say, in most cases into a factory at a grade of 3, a fat cover of 3, and if we can get them to a 3 at a certain weight, that's fine, that's grand.
So that finishing group, which is basically what it is them heavier lambs, you keep drafting into that as the summer goes on. I take it the other lambs are still running on, the lighter lambs you're letting them grow?
Yes, let them grow on the grass, because if you start feeding those lambs too early, you're feeding them for a long time, and meanwhile they're eating meal, and you're feeding meal for them longer, and the grass is building up on the farm, because there's no point in having grass building up for just to rot in the ground, because the sheep won't eat, the ewes won't eat all the grass you have at that stage in the year.
And like, you know, being honest, like you've like lambs on this farm, like everybody at that city, at the 30
definitely.
Kilo lambs.
Yeah.
You wouldn't consider pumping them early. You like to let them grow on.
Oh, definitely, yes, definitely. Even let them grow on, even into September. Let them grow on into September, and you can.
I suppose like the other big advantage for you then is you're continually moving lambs off the farm. System.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Yeah, that's
so
right.
Your numbers are declining. You're not getting to a lull period in August where you realise I've a lot of lambs now. What do I do?
Yeah, because because you end up doing fire brigade stuff at that stage.
John, thanks very much for your time today.
Okay, Ciaran, no problem. Thanks.
We have to finish up with John at this point. Again, a very interesting system. Always good to get John's insights on it. He runs in a very efficient and simple manner, but he's achieving a very high output from 46 hectares. Again, putting that paddock system in place for John allows him to do this whilst keeping costs in check. As he stated there earlier, it's one investment that you're going to get your return on within the same season, both in terms of financial return, but particularly in the effort you put in, you see the payback from it. Again, at the moment, John's running finishing groups on the farm. It allows them to target supplementation and keep lambs moving and getting a level of finish on them. It's something that could be considered for a lot of farms at the moment. Take stock of where the lambs are at and look at how you could target feeding. That's it for me for this episode. Again, for any updates on the sheep programme, keep an eye on our Twitter page at Teagasc Sheep. I'm Ciaran Lynch. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe and tune in to future episodes.